So you think you might want to work on a canal boat. Well, what do you know about canal boating? Do you know that two mules like Kit and Kate here can pull that boat through the canal at about 4 miles an hour? Well, if you want to travel with me on the mainline canal, then follow me and I'll teach you the things that you need to know. Come on, Kit. Come on, Kate. Let's go.
We started out from Philly with dreams of heading west. They told us that for traveling, the main line was the best. Instead of north to Erie or south to C&O, it had to be the main line, the fastest way to go. Now we're sailing mountains, fording streams, heading westward, just you and me. We're riding the rails, powered by steam. We're traveling the main line to follow a dream.
I'm here with Brianna and Monty, and they both work here on the canal. And Brianna, what can you tell me about the mules here and what you do for the mainline canal?
Well, for the mainline canal, I keep the mules clean, fed, polish their tack, make sure they're in good health, do any kind of small veterinary care that I can, and of course, harness them up and walk with them along the canal.
Oh, that's great. Now, what does Monty do here?
Whatever she tells me.
Well, I hope you're a fast learner. Now, what are you going to do for us today?
We're going to tell you a little bit about the pieces of equipment that go on the mules and harness the mules up since we're about to start a trip.
Okay, great. Well, why don't you demonstrate and show us what you're going to do and explain what you're doing?
Okay. Well, the first...
And while she does it, I'll do it.
Okay.
First piece of equipment we have is called the collar.
Okay.
A good portion of the pulling weight, so to speak, on the mules is on their shoulders. So you need something that will keep the mule shoulders protected, and the collar is the thing, and it goes right around their neck.
And these guys don't mind this around their neck?
Nope. Kate's been doing this for 20 years.
Great.
She's an old timer at it. Our next piece of harness is the main piece of harness. And the harness itself weighs about 30 pounds.
Okay.
And we have to go on the other side of the mule to put it on. Now the harness fastens in 3 places on the mule. Hey, cut it out. Sometimes it gets a little bit twisted. There you go. The hames are what keeps the harness fastened up around the neck and on the collar. Kate. And then we have the girth, so to speak.
Now, I know on a horse they'll bloat themselves so that this doesn't fit real tight.
That happens on a horse. It won't happen on a mule, partially because the mules, it's not real tight right now, as you can see. When the mule begins to pull against the canal boat, it tightens up somewhat.
Oh, okay.
And finally, the last piece that's fastened is probably the yuckiest piece for the mule. It's called a crupper. And in the olden days, real olden days, instead of having cruppers, they had something called breeching, which actually went all the way around the back of the mule. But the cruppers go underneath the tail, and as you can see, Kate doesn't like it very much.
No. Now, you don't have a problem standing behind the mule?
Not really. Put it this way, Kate's an old hand at this. I'm an old hand at mules and horses. If I let her know I'm back here and I'm not real rough with her, she'll be okay. It's just when you get real rough and you kind of kick them or smack them around a little bit, they might get angry, and then I would watch it.
Because I heard there were two things with horses that you don't want to do. You have to watch where you're walking, so wear boots and never go behind a horse.
You can go behind a horse if you let the horse know you're there. You'll always watch when I'm with a horse or a mule that I always walk a safe distance, and I always let her know I'm here.
Okay.
Soft word, a soft pat. We're going to try to get this up on Kate. Here we go. And the last piece that's going to go on is the bridle. And the bridle, of course, is self-explanatory. It's basically what we use to keep the mules where we want them to go. Our mules are so well trained, however, that we don't really use the bridle. Now we have two pieces attached to the bridle. We've got the bit, which goes in their mouth, and we have a chain that goes underneath their chin. If a mule misbehaves or spooks at something, we yank the chain, and it kind of goes like this. Doesn't really hurt them. It would take an awful lot to hurt a mule. But it lets them know that they've done something wrong, they better not do it again.
Okay.
And the blinders, of course, are to keep the mule looking straight ahead and not off to the side. And
do you ever have any trouble putting this in her mouth?
Nope. I have a very special way that I've learned how to do it. Come here, Kate. Working with mules and horses as long as I have, and being as short as I once was, I learned that the best thing to do is always put the reins over their head first. That way, if they run away, you have something to hold on to. I take my hand like this, actually. And that keeps her head in place when I want to put the bit in. And mules have very sensitive ears. And some mules don't mind their ears being touched, and some do. We have both kinds on the canal.
And how does this one
Well, she's okay.
fare? She likes her ears touched?
Yeah, Kit's not much for ear touching. And in fact, she'll go like that.
Now, I had a horse once where I couldn't get the bit in her mouth, so I would stick my thumb in the side to help open up.
Yep.
Do you ever do that?
Sometimes, yeah. But most of the time, they accept the bit pretty readily. We make sure that our mules are treated as our working partners. They are beasts of burden. We do use them for work, but they're also, we wouldn't be able to function without them.
Now, how many miles will these mules go before you rest them?
Well, they'll travel 6 to 8 hours.
Okay.
And those 6 to 8 hour shifts are called tricks.
Okay.
And when they've finished their work for the day, we take the next set of fresh mules off the boat, because each boat has 2 teams of mules, and we work them.
And how old is Kit and Kate?
Kate's about 20, and Kit's about 18 or 19. So
Great.
they're pretty old girls. Mules, though, will last well into their 30s if you take good care of them.
So what is the next step?
Well, the next step is to make sure their harness is on correctly, and then wait for the canal boat
Okay,
to come into the lock.
do you have a nice mule story that you can share with us?
Well, it's a mule story. What happened with the old mules on the canal is that the mule drivers usually let the mules go, and they would wander in between the canal and the river until they died. And there was one canal boat captain who saw all these bones of these bleached mules on the towpath and in between the river and the canal, and they thought, I bet there's some money in that. And so what he did is he started up at Cumberland, and he took his canal boat down, and every time he saw a pile of mule bones, he put the mule bones on the boat. By the time he got down here to Georgetown, he had 70 tons of mule bones on his boat, and he ground them up into fertilizer. Oh. So mules are recyclable. Sorry about that, Kate.
Well, I have a story that I would like to share with you, and it's
Okay.
about a mule and a boy who had this mule and got very attached to the mule. And lightning struck in the canal, and well, instead of me finishing the story like this, let me sing you the story.
Oh, I love that.
Okay? I had a mule named Sally. Sally and I were best friends, strolling the towpath together. Who thought those good times would end? Walking from Johnstown to Blairsville, side every day. We brave the weather and whatever would get in our way. Pulling canal boats is hard work, causes much stress and much strain. But Sally, my girl, was a tough one. She never showed anyone her pain. We did most everything together, our meals at the end of the day, enjoying life's little pleasures till we both fall asleep in the hay. Seemed like an ordinary rainstorm, then thunder roared out a fierce call. My Sally, she bolted, then stumbled, and off of the bridge she did fall. Now all my thoughts are of Sally, the best mule a guy ever had. No one shall ever replace her. Sally, I'll miss you, old friend. I'm really going to miss that mule. I'm here with Carl, who's the lock tender or lock keeper. What do you prefer?
Well, call me a lock keeper.
All right, you're the lock keeper. Now this is the lock, right?
This is the lock right along here.
All right, now what do you do?
Well, what we do is whenever there's a boat coming through, we have to raise and lower the water level in the lift lock so the boat can continue on its way.
All right.
And we do that by using this right here. This is a lock key. This might be the biggest, heaviest key you've ever seen. Attach a lock key to this pole.
Okay.
And that pole goes to the bottom of the lock gate. That pole is attached to a wicket. The wicket's just a fancy name for this paddle. What we do is, to raise the water here, we'll turn our lock key like this. You might be able to see the water rushing in down there now.
Okay, right here.
That opens up one wicket. I'll open up another one. You see there's even more water going in there.
Now, how many times a day do you do this?
Well, I ain't never counted them, but we got to do it whenever there's a boat coming through.
Okay.
Because we are on call 24 hours a day.
All right. Now, how long does this take to fill up?
Oh, just a couple minutes or so.
Okay. Now, how long have you been working here?
Well, I've been doing this for about 5 years now.
And how much do they pay you?
Well, I might get about $50 a year, but I also get a house, a lock house, and I got a little acre of land that I can plant crops and whatnot.
Okay, great. Now, have you ever had an accident here? Any kind of trouble? Anything go wrong?
Well, personally, no. I've never had an accident. Because, you know, if you're nipping at the jug a little bit, you don't want to be doing this. It's kind of dangerous here because you got this 6-inch wide plank to walk on. You don't want to be stumbling around here. If you fall in on that side, well, somebody could probably fish you out. But if you fall in down there, you got all that water churning, you may not come up.
Now, you don't take a little nip and do this, do you?
Oh, no. If I'm taking a nip, I have my wife do this.
Okay. There are women that do this then, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, you're on call 24 hours a day. If the lock keeper can't do it, if he's asleep, you send out your wife or you send out your kids.
Well, thanks, Carl.
We never were expecting the ride that we would get. Canal boats, trains, and inclines, timetables had been set. An engineering marvel, most everyone would say, to cross the Alleghenies in only a few days. Now we're scaling mountains, fording streams, heading westward, just you and me. We're riding the rails, powered by steam. We're traveling a main line to follow a dream.
I'm here with Kathy, who is a traveler on the mainline canal. She travels on the canal boats frequently. Now, Kathy, being you travel frequently, you must like the ride that you get here on the canal boat.
I do. I really enjoy riding on the canals. much smoother and faster than the wagon roads.
Can't be that much faster, right?
Well, it's not too much faster, but the ride is much more pleasant for us. On the roads, there's always washouts and getting stuck, bumpy.
Yeah, I think those mules are moving at about, what, 4 miles an hour?
Just about.
Now, what do you think of life on the boat?
Well, that's not quite as pleasant.
Now, where do you get your drinking water?
Well, we stop at springs along the way and take our jugs and load up there.
There was a man, Charles Dickens. Perhaps you've heard of him.
I have.
Yes, he wrote many books. But he wrote that when he traveled on the main line, his water came right from the canal.
Oh.
He would take a cup and he would dip that cup into the canal and he would drink from that cup. And there was a chain on the cup so that if it fell into the canal, you could just hoist it back in. And when he would wash his face, he would do the same. There was a big bowl that he would dip in the canal and he'd pull that water out and he'd wash his face, and it had a chain on it also.
What a rogue.
Yes. Now, this is probably a personal question, but how are the restroom facilities on a boat like this?
Well, we have our thunder jugs.
Your thunder jugs?
Now, the thunder jugs we empty into the canal. We also do use our canal for washing our clothes and doing chores, mopping the decks, but anything but drinking water, that we get from the streams. But everything else we get from the canal and we throw right back into the canal.
So, Kathy, what about the sleeping arrangements?
Well, on packet boats like this, they sleep men on one side and women on the other. We sleep in a series of bunk beds, one on top of the other.
And you pull a curtain?
Yeah, that's our privacy.
Now, Charles Dickens, he referred to it as bed and board. Have you heard that term? Bed and board?
Yeah, they feed us as well as provide us with those accommodations.
So you eat right on this board that eventually you will sleep on.
We do.
Thus the term bed and board.
Yes.
Okay, anything else you want to tell people that are interested in traveling on the canal boats?
Well, most of our food comes from along the canal. Turtles that are plucked out, eels that they grab while we're locking through, groundhog. The canal company, yeah, the canal company loves to feed us groundhog because that way they keep the groundhogs from digging holes in the towpath.
Is groundhog tasty?
Oh, it's very tasty.
A tasty treat.
Highly recommend it.
Okay, so we have Kathy here, a tasty treat. The groundhog will be served maybe later today, okay?
Yes.
Well, thanks, Kathy.
You're
We'll
welcome.
talk to you a little later.
Okay.
I'm on the good boat Georgetown with Captain Michael. He's at the tiller here, I see.
Sure, I'll be the tillerman today.
And I hope you're a good tillerman because I don't think we want to hit into that bridge coming up ahead.
Well, I've missed it so far. Well, wait a minute. Hey, we're not through it yet.
No, we're not. Have you ever hit a bridge?
Never hit a bridge yet.
Hey, could you tell the future canal boatmen, people who maybe would like to ride on a
Sure.
boat like this or travel on a boat like this, a little bit about what it's like working here on the boat?
Well, now, 'tis a challenging job. 'Tis a physical job. But 'tis the finest job you'll ever be having.
And what do you mean?
Well, it's a simple way of life. You know, some people are born and raised and die in them houses, never seeing more than 5 to 20 mile in their whole life. Every week I get to see 184.5 mile of our country. I'm going from Georgetown to Cumberland. And you're welcome to come aboard if you want.
Oh, yes, this is great.
Sure now.
And do you have any interesting stories to tell us about any maybe famous people that traveled on your boat or infamous people or just funny people?
No, we've had politicians on the boat before.
Oh, yeah?
Nothing more infamous than politicians. And some of them even been talking about filling us up and making us into a railroad. Can you imagine?
A railroad?
A railroad.
So what got you interested in working on a canal boat?
Well, I was over in Ireland in County Cork, you know, and my brother here to come over and help build the canal. And he wrote me a letter saying he's no longer a picking and shoveling, he's a working on a canal boat. And the captain of his boat broke his leg up so bad, he couldn't work no more, so he sold my brother the boat.
Oh.
And he needed me and my family to come over and help run the canal boat, you know. And so here we come. We immigrated to...
Could you explain how you're guiding the boat here?
Well, this be the tiller arm, and it's
Okay.
working the rudder. And you want the boat to go to the starboard or to the right, you pull your rudder over to the left or to the port, and there we go. And you do the other way around. It take a while to get used to it, but once you're used to it, it don't matter. Now I'll be blowing the crossover here. Crossover! That lets the other boats know we're taking our brace of mules over the crossover bridge.
So the mules go up and cross the bridge over to the other side, and then they're gonna pull the boat from that side?
Sure, it's about the only time I'd recommend to be underneath a mule, you know.
Good point.
But you see, the single tree or the evener, that's what takes the powers of the mule, which is probably about 3.5 to 4 mule power right there, horsepower in them mules. Anyway, that single tree and that evener, it evens out the power of the mules, focuses it into a single point into which you attach the tow line, and that puts the single point onto the boat, and just like having a 3.5 horsepower engine in just 2 mules.
Well, I'm telling you, Captain, you've been very informative.
Well, thank you now. Appreciate you coming aboard.
You're a good man.
Well,
and
thank you. Not
I
many
see
people
we
say that
haven't,
about
we
me.
haven't hit the bridges on the way up
Gateway
through.
to the west. One journey coming to an end, our trip it was the best. No matter where we travel, no matter where we roam, from here we're heading onward to find ourselves a home. Now we're scaling mountains, fording streams, heading westward, just you and me. We're riding the rails, powered by steam. We're traveling the main line to follow our dream.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the day as much as I enjoyed the day, and I hope now you'll want to work on a canal boat. I want to thank all my friends here that worked on the canal boat with us today. We had Kathy, and we had Brianna, and we had Taya, and of course we have Kate and Kit. And join us again next time when we do another episode of Working the Alleghenies.
We never were expecting the ride that we would get. Canal boats, trains, and inclines, timetables had been set. An engineering marvel, most everyone would say, to cross the Alleghenies in only a few days. Now we're scaling mountains, fording streams, heading westward, just you and me. We're riding the rails, powered by steam. We're traveling a main line to follow our dream. Arriving in Pittsburgh, the gateway to the west. One journey coming to an end, our trip it was the best. No matter where we travel, no matter where we roam, from here we're heading onward to find ourselves a home. Now we're scaling mountains, fording streams, heading westward, just you and me. We're riding the rails, powered by steam. We're traveling the main line to follow our dream. Follow our dream. Follow